Judiciary of Guam is faced with a $600,000 dilemma.
As we sit here today, the options that would have to be decided are, number one, do we defer the law enforcement adjustment, or if we pay that out, do we then adopt a 32-hour work week, taking into account the notices that have to be provided.
Chief Justice F. Philip Carbolito alluded to the financial realities of the island's third branch of government during his State of the Judiciary address last month, warning that even if the courts receive their full allotments for the rest of the fiscal year, they'll still end up with a shortfall.
The information I have is that if we do defer the law enforcement adjustment, because that's about $600,000, that if we're able to defer that, then we don't have to adopt the 32-hour work week. We can't pay the law enforcement adjustment and continue with operation as usual. There's just not the cash available for that.
Carbolito says if the courts go into a 32-hour work week, the wheels of justice could come to a screeching halt at a time when the caseload is growing and the demands on the court are increasing.
It will have a severe impact on us, just access to justice and timely decisions. And so, of course, that would be the last alternative. That's something that we don't want to engage in. As I mentioned, that cutting back in terms of our services to the public cannot be the answer.
While a 32-hour work week is an option of last resort, the Chief Justice stresses that he is just one of 5 of the Judicial Council members who will ultimately make that decision. But if lawmakers were able to identify $500,000 to $600,000, Carbolito says the judiciary would be able to get through this fiscal year without the reduction in work hours and still be able to give their public safety personnel their raises as mandated by law. But because that doesn't seem like a realistic possibility going into the fiscal year 2012 budget process, the Chief Justice says the court will be asking for additional funding to pay for the mandates imposed by the legislature.
They raise the law enforcement adjustment 10% for fiscal year 2011, another 10% by fiscal year 2012. That in itself is going to cost $1.2 million. So even if we were to just have a status quo budget, already automatically our budget has increased by $1.2 million because of these mandates. You can't keep passing these mandates without supporting it with appropriate appropriations.
The Judicial Council is scheduled to meet on Friday, May 27th.